Chapter 1, Nutrition in Plants. In this lesson, we will learn about different modes of nutrition. What are the types? Next, the condition necessary for photosynthesis. So you might have heard about the term photosynthesis, right, from your early classes, right? So let's see in advance. Significance of photosynthesis is nothing but the importance of photosynthesis. Types of heterotrophic nutrition in plants. What are symbionts? And then we'll see about nutrition replenishment in the soil. So here certain terms might be new for you, but still we will get into the lesson. So it will be very interesting for us to know about each terms that we have discussed here. All right. Before getting on to the lesson, first we need to understand what is nutrition all about. Nutrition is a mode of taking food by an organism and its utilization by the body. Yes, so utilization in sense the way how the body uses what are the nutritive items taken by us. Okay, generally the nutrition is termed in this way. So here even the plants are living organisms. Yes, so they also have a specific mode of nutrition, how they prepare their food and how they utilize it in their body parts. All right, I mean the plant parts. So in this lesson we will discuss about the modes of nutrition. So there are two modes of nutrition. What are they? The first one, the mode of nutrition in which the plant makes the food by themselves from simpler substance is called as autotrophic nutrition. Okay, so the plant cannot move from its place. It has to be there in the place where it has been planted, right? So it has to absorb certain minerals, as well as it has to absorb certain things from the atmosphere, and then it will create its food substances. Only then it can survive. Yes or no? So this kind of nutrition is called as autotrophic nutrition. The other one is the mode of nutrition in which the organism obtain food from other organisms are called as heterotrophic. Mostly the best example which we can give is like animals and we humans as well as. Okay, so here can we prepare our own food material? No. We always need a source of food, right? From the plants we prepare it, from the animals we prepare it, but we ourselves cannot prepare anything. Okay, so we are dependent on plants and animals to prepare the food stuff. So this type of nutrition where the organism has to depend on the other organism, either it might be a plant or the animal, is called as heterotrophic nutrition. Let us learn about autotrophic nutrition in detail. So the main process involved in autotrophic nutrition is photosynthesis. We might have learned this photosynthesis right from grade 4. Yes, so let us have a small brush up on this definition. The process by which the green plants make their own food in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll using carbon dioxide and water as raw material is called as photosynthesis. So here this picture explains well about it, right? So the main source is received from the sun as light energy, and then the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is taken into the leaves, and here the oxygen is released and the glucose is formed. The glucose which is formed, it is not released out as per the aroma. It is utilized by the plants for its growth purposes. All right, and here there is something given as chlorophyll. So the equation when we see for photosynthesis, it is like this. The molecular formula, carbon dioxide CO2 plus water H2O, okay, in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives glucose C6H12O6 plus oxygen. It is a balanced equation. So the number 6 here, it is balanced. All right, so in this equation we can understand the solar energy, yes, it is converted as chemical energy which is stored as energy in the plants. It can be in either form like fruits or in the stem or in the leaves or in any part where it is edible. Okay, so every part of the plant stores it as chemical energy which we take it as food item. All right, so have you ever thought where does this process happen in plant? Yes, we always learn about the photosynthesis process, which where the light is involved and it receives water from the soil and air. All these are the favorable conditions where the photosynthesis happen, because it is mandatory for the plant for this process to happen to prepare the foodstuff, as it cannot move from one place to another. But we need to think where this process exactly happens in the plant. Yes, let's discuss about this in detail. So the answer for the question can be here by discussing the raw materials required for the photosynthesis. So we did see about some raw material, right? Like carbon dioxide, water. So we need to know how exactly the plant takes in carbon dioxide. There should be some internal process involved in it, right? Which we cannot see directly. Can we see how we inhale air? We can just feel it by the air when we inhale it. But after which we are respiring, and so many processes happening within our body. Likewise, a plant, we cannot see how the air gets in, but this is how the particle gets inside the leaf. So, where does this process happen? The leaf intake carbon dioxide, okay, and you have a minute spore underneath the leaf. And that particular spore, it is called as stomata. And the singular form of stomata is called as stoma. The underside of each leaf contains tiny pores, okay, through which the air is taken in and given out. All right. So in this picture, can you see this picture where here the pore is open and here it is closed? Yes, like how it gets in. When it gets in and out, it just opens, and when it is not happening, it is closed. So this is how the stoma is open and closed for the air to pass in and out of the leaf. All right, and this thicker part where it helps to open and close is called as guard cells. So remember the term what I'm saying, guard cells. So everything is a cell. So this is a particular cell, and these are all are also particular cells. Like the outer layer, we call them as epidermal cell. So every part of the plant is made up of cell, like which every living organism is made up of cell. So plant, obviously it is a living organism. Yes, so it's a living thing. So definitely it is made up of cell. So here in this picture, just look onto this picture. See here. So the outer layer where it receives the sunlight, okay, and here the transaction of the air happens. The small this for this particular gap here, it is given as a microscopic diagram where we can see it clearly. Okay, this diagram, it is viewed under the microscope. So this stoma opens, and carbon dioxide enters and oxygen is given out, and there is some air spaces seen here. All right, and this is exactly the cross section of the leaf. It is a microscopic view of cross section. All right, each stoma has an ability to open and close by the guard cells, as I said earlier. Now, the next raw material we will discuss about is water and minerals. So, definitely, as soon as I say this term, you might think, so it is exactly the soil. Yes, underneath the plant, that is the root part of the plant, plays a vital role. So, here, plants absorb water and minerals from the soil through the root hairs. So, these are the root. And here, this tiny particle which arises in the root, minute particles, these are called as root hairs. So, it is not directly absorbed by the root. From the root hairs, it is absorbed and then taken into the roots. Okay. So, there is a particular means of travel over here. Something has to carry this, right? Automatically, the water cannot be pushed in upward direction. So there is a particular type of vessel which is involved in this. Okay, so the absorbed water and the minerals are transported from the root hairs to through the leaves, a pipe-like structure which is called as xylem vessels. All right, so look at this picture. Here the xylem vessel is present. See here, so the longitudinal section we can see like this. The thick walls is like this, and here the water and the minerals are getting moving upward in direction. And always just have a hint that xylem vessels will help the minerals and the water to move in upward direction. All right, and you might think, what is this another one sitting over here like phloem vessels? What is this? Here, once after the photosynthesis process is over, we are learning, right? The byproduct what we get is the glucose as well as oxygen. Yes, oxygen is liberated out from the plant where we inhale it, and the starch that has been prepared by the process of photosynthesis, it is a food particle for the plant. So that has to be distributed to all parts of the plant. Only then it can store the energy in different forms like fruits or leaves or flowers or whatever it is. So the pathway where the food particles it is carried on, it is called as phloem vessels. Okay, along with that, even the little amount of water will be carried. Okay, so here we did learn about the raw materials from where we get it. Yes, as well as the other sources. Now let us learn about cell. So cell, it is defined as cell is a structural and the functional unit of all living organisms. Why we need to study about the cell? How it is involved in this process. So every part of the plant is made up of cells. Okay, the cells can be divided into two like unicellular and multicellular. There are organisms which are like single cell. Okay, like bacteria, all these are like single cell and we call them as unicellular, where we need a microscope to view it. All right, so here plant is a multicellular, so it is made up of many millions of cells together, so that we are able to view with our naked eye. The entire plant I'm just talking about, we are able to view. But if you're gonna just look upon a single cell structure, it has its own function and it has its own structure. All right, because just because it has its uniqueness, it performs the function what it has to perform in the plant. All right, so now, cell can be seen only with the help of microscope, as I said. So this picture helps us to understand the structure of the plant cell. Okay, so for the plant it's different and for the animals it's different, because the plant, the functions performed by the plant is different and the function performed by the animal is different. Yes, do plants and animal are the same? Are they performing the same function? Definitely not. Yes, so here the plant cell, one main difference in between the plant cell and animal cell is a cell wall. Here we have a cell wall. In animals we don't have cell wall, instead we have a plasma membrane. We will learn in detail about that. So considering about this structure, here we can see many small tiny things present inside the cell. What do we call them as? It is called as organelles. Okay, so the tiny structures which is present, which is embedded on this green color structure, this green structure is called as the green color thing which is spread all over the cell is called as cytoplasm, on which all these organelles are embedded on it. All right, so these are organelles and each organelle perform different functions in producing different components. Okay, like proteins, everything is produced inside the cell. So once the carbon dioxide and water is taken inside the cell, here the sunlight is required, right? The sunlight is absorbed with the presence of this particular organelle which is called as chloroplast, which has chlorophyll. What does it have? It has chlorophyll. So this component, this is called as a pigment. This is the pigment of this particular cell. Okay, so just because the plant has a chlorophyll, it is green in color. This pigment is green in color. So this chlorophyll helps to trap the sunlight. Okay, and then all the four components together give out the starch, carbohydrates, it's prepared, glucose, and then the oxygen is released. Okay, so all this process happens inside this cell. Now you understand why the cell is present. Knowing much advance about the cell and the site of photosynthesis, here we know where exactly it happens. Yes, it is chloroplast is present inside the cell. So this chloroplast is of a green colored pigment which is present in the leaves as well as at the stem part. So wherever we see the green, we can just identify the chloroplast is present where it helps in the photosynthesis process. So you might have a question like, what about the other colored leaves? You might have seen, right? By itself they will, by nature they will have yellow leaves, or the fruit which is given out like mango or lemon or whatever it is, like flowers, it will be yellow in color, or the vegetable we consume like a carrot, the fruit, Papaya, it's orange in color. Tomato, it is red in color. Yes. So how these colors are given out from the plant when we have only chloroplast? Yes. Yes, there are many other pigments present, but still in these places where the fruits or the flowers is given out, or the leaves which is yellow in color, the other pigments mask the chloroplast and they are produced more in numbers. So this is how the color differentiation happens inside the pigments. Okay, so the pigments is much important in plants. This is also one of the major difference where the plant cell will have pigments and animal cell will not have pigments. What if we have pigments? Just think about it. Yes, green in color, yellow in color, orange in color, we are gonna get dominated with these kind of pigments. How odd we will look. Yes, so this is very specifically designed for the photosynthesis process for only plants and trees. All right, so nowhere animals are involved with this pigmentation process. So having learnt about the photosynthesis process in detail, let us know about its significance, nothing but the importance. Alright, it is a process through which the plant make food for themselves. Without this process, definitely the plant cannot prepare its food stuff. Also, it is a primary source for food production. Only when this process happens, the plant will be able to produce the food which can be stored in different forms like fruits, or like flowers, where it becomes an edible part for the other organism to be considered as source of food. Next, it makes the air fresh by taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. So it's just a vice versa what happens in animals, right? We take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide for the plants to respire. So they take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen for us to breathe. So this keeps the environment fresh. It maintains a balance between the oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Yes, so what happens if there are less amount of plants? We will definitely will have a deficit of oxygen. Yes, more amount of carbon dioxide what we exhale will be here, which is dangerous. Yes, as well as it cannot be balanced. If more amount of plants we plant around us, definitely we will be able to get good amount of oxygen and we can produce the carbon dioxide which will be taken by the plants and it can be utilized in the better way. So this is the reason we are asked to plant many plants around us. Wherever we go, if you build a new house, just make sure that you have some place for the plants to be planted. That will give you a really a happiness when you see the plant that you grow. It gives us such a lot of happiness. Yes, so that is the power of the nature. So these are some importance of photosynthesis. Learn about autotrophic nutrition. Let us learn about heterotrophic nutrition. So here it is. Like animals, some plants depend on other animals or plants for their food is called as heterotrophic nutrition. So the dependent one is called as like heterotrophic nutrition. So we also fall under this process. Yes, we cannot prepare our own stuff as I discussed earlier in this video. So heterotrophic nutrition is divided into major divisions like parasitic plants, insectivorous plant, and there is a separate type of saprophytic nutrition happens in certain plants. Okay, so we will discuss about this in next slides. Now let us learn about parasitic plants. What are these parasitic plants? Parasitic plants are those that depend on other plants for food and water. Okay, so why these plants are called as parasitic plants? Because they grow on the other plants. Okay, there will be a single plant and these parasitic plant will consider them as a host to get the energy, I mean get the food particles from that particular plants. They cannot prepare anything. These parasitic plants does not have chlorophyll. Only when a plant has a chlorophyll, they will be able to trap the sunlight, I mean the solar energy to prepare the food stuff. Yes, so here as they lack chlorophyll, they will not be able to prepare the food. So they have to depend on some other plant and they will grow around that particular plant to trap the nutrients from them. So these plants have a specialized roots like a tube-like structures that will deep penetrate into the body of the host plant. Okay, they will get stick onto it. All right, so they will absorb the nutrients from that particular plant or tree so that they can prepare the food, so that they get the food stuff. They cannot prepare anyways, so that they get the food stuff from the host plant. So that is how they also receive the water. They cannot even absorb anything because they are entirely present on the other plant for its survival. All right. So here some examples are given for parasitic plants. One such example is cascata. Okay, see how exactly it is present. It has trapped the other plant. See, it has completely trapped. Yes, so that it will produce the root structures to absorb the nutrients. And this is the exact structure. See how it overlaps the entire plant. There is another plant underneath, and this cascata has grown on top of this like this, not allowing the other plant to grow further. And sometimes it will even kill the host plant and absorbing the energy and the nutrients from them. All right. And there is one another example which is given, which is called as mistletoe. Okay, so these things are also grow on like mango or teak tree. Okay, and this is not completely parasitic, it is partially parasitic because it has chlorophyll, but it is not able to absorb the water because it is formed on top of the tree. Okay, so it cannot absorb the water as it doesn't have a proper root system, so it will just use the other tree to get the water resources and other minerals. All right, so it is partially parasitic in nature. Let's learn about the next step of the heterotrophic plants, which is called as insectivorous plant. Okay, so from the name itself, we can understand something. It has to deal with the insects. Yes, let's see what it is. The plant that trap the insect and absorb its nutrients for food is called as insectivorous plant. Okay, so the plant by itself will not move from its place, as we know, but still it can trap the insect which comes and sits on it, and then it can utilize the energy from that particular insect. So why they have to do this? Let us see. These plants have chlorophyll in their leaves. They will be able to prepare the food through the process called photosynthesis, but they also require some of the nutrients, right? Not only water is required for this, for the entire part of the plant to grow. Along with the water, some minerals also has to be there. Yes, so for the minerals, what they do, they will just try to trap this minerals from the insects because they grow in the places where the nutrition it's not at all available. All right, so the major part of the nutrition required is like nitrogen. So the plant where so the places where these plants are, we cannot see nitrogen much in amount. It will be lacking over there. So that's the reason these plants are called as insectivorous plant. So some examples given here are like pitcher plants. See, look at this picture. What happens here? You can see the lid open. Once because of its beautiful color, the insect will come and sit on top of that. All right, it will just come and sit here. Immediately the lid will open. Inside this, the structures, some kind of minute hairs are present where it will not allow the insect after getting in to fly away. Okay, it will be everything faced inward in direction. It cannot come out that easily. This is called as pitcher plant. Next example here is Venus flytrap. See how it is trapping the insect because of its beautiful color. It just comes and sits over here. Okay, it's get attracted by this red or pink shade structure, and immediately this plant traps the insect inside that, and then the exact nutritive part will be consumed by the plant. And some other examples are bladderwort, which is also called as like utricularia. Okay, so here just looks like a bladder. See, bladder like structures. So that is the reason it is called as like bladderwort. All right, you understood about insectivorous plant. So in heterotrophic nutrition, we did learn something about the plants that were depending on something alive for its nutrition purpose. Here, let us learn about saprophytic nutrition. What is saprophytic nutrition is all about? The mode of nutrition in which the organism takes the nutrition from the dead and decaying matters. So the organism doesn't have life, it's already dead. It might be a dead plant or it might be a dead animals. Okay, from that decaying matter they will absorb the nutrients and they will start to grow. this type of plant and the mode of nutrition what they arrive is called as saprophytic nutrition. All right. So such organisms with saprophytic mode of nutrition is called as saprophytes. So let us see some example for saprophytes. What are the organisms that are derived from the dead and decaying matter obtaining its energy? So here one such example which is given is bread mold. All right. Can you see the structure of the bread over there? See here, this is a bread, and sometimes maybe we might have seen the rotten bread, right, with black spots on it or grayish spots on it. Yes, so we cannot view directly how exactly the structures look like. That is a bread mold. All right, under the microscope we can clearly view how exactly it is structured. Okay, so when the bread it is already rotten, we cannot consume it. These organisms will start to grow on it. So see here, so this is how the structures are produced in the bread. It is a magnified picture of that particular bread mold, because exactly we cannot see like a plant sitting on it, right? So that black structures, when we view under microscope, it has a specific plant structure where it has the rhizoids which deep root itself inside, okay, and it produces the spores. So this top region, which is round in shape, has spores, okay, and when it bursts, the spores are is called a sporangium, and when it bursts, the spores are released out in the atmosphere, and that is how they reproduce by itself. So generally the fungus are present in the atmospheric layers. So one other example is mushroom. See different types of mushrooms given here. Okay, you might have seen this. So the fungal spores are generally present in the air, as I said. So when they land on something wet and warm things, they germinate and start to grow. Alright, that this is how their life starts. So they need something dead and decaying matters for in order to reproduce. Okay. So when they are present in the air, it cannot just grow just like that. It needs some other source for it to grow properly, to derive the nutrition from them. Alright. About autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition, let us also learn about symbiotic plants. What are these symbiotic plants? Some organisms live together and share their shelter, and nutrients are called as symbionts. Okay, so mutually they will share the benefits by sharing the nutrition as well as the shelter, and they give out the products out. This is called as the symbiosis. So this kind of nature as it is seen in these plants, they are called as symbionts, okay, or symbiotic plants. The example given in your book is like lichens. So can you see the picture of the lichens over here? This pale part. Let me show it to you. This pale part over here, and on this bark of the tree, can you see this white structure as well as the yellowish structures? All these things are called as lichens. Okay, so this lichen composed of a particular kind of fungus and alga. Alga is nothing but it's a singular form of algae where you can see it during the rainy days. That is one such example I'm just giving. Okay, so the green patches on the moist wall or on the moist floor or on the trees you can see, right? Those things are called as algae. Okay, so these alga contains a chlorophyll that makes its own food, all right, and it can share it to the fungus. These fungus provides water and the minerals to the alga. Can you understand? Okay, so this is how it traps the energy from one source and it shares the energy to the other component which is growing along with them. All right, so here what happens? In some other cases, we can also find some fungi live in the roots of the trees also. So what happens in that case? The trees provide them with the nutrients and they help the tree in absorbing the water and the minerals from the soil. This is how they share their nutrition. Okay, shelter in sense, it is not the shelter exactly we think. The shelter for them is the plant, the host plant. They will share with each other. All right, one will prepare the foodstuff and one will get the nutrients from the root. This is how they share their components. So these plants are called as symbiotic plants with this kind of nature. Let's also learn how the plant prepares the food other than the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is a result of photosynthesis, and apart from there are many other minerals are required for the growth of the plant, right? So they make proteins from the nitrogenous bases present in the soil also. So how do they get these kind of bases? Let us see here. The nitrogen gas is present in the air in abundance. Okay, so in the atmosphere we can see nearly like 78% of nitrogen gas is present, but the nitrogen gas present in the atmosphere will not be uh, will not help the plant to absorb directly. All right, so that is the reason, with the help of the lightning process, something present in the soil helps in converting this atmospheric nitrogen so that the plant can absorb it with its roots. All right, from the soil. So what is that called? Rhizobium. It is another kind of bacteria, okay, which lives in the root nodules of leguminous plants. Leguminous plants like beans or pea, or these are like leguminous plants, okay. So in its root nodule you can see these kind of rhizobium bacteria present, which helps in converting this particular atmospheric nitrogen into the nitrogen that can be absorbed by the plant. So in this picture also you can just see it, right? See how the root nodules are present here in the leguminous plants that helps in absorption of the nitrogen. All right. So now it converts a water soluble nitrogenous bases. Okay. So from the atmospheric nitrogen, now it is converted into as water soluble nitrogenous bases. So this process by which the nitrogen is converted from the atmospheric nitrogen to the water soluble nitrogen bases, it's called as nitrogen fixation. It is fixing the nitrogen from the atmosphere to the soil so that the plant can utilize it in a better way, all right, to produce the proteins which is required for the growth of the plant. Okay, so this is also called as like nitrogen cycle. We will learn how exactly the nitrogen cycle is involved in it. Well, once it has been fixed in the plant, it will just utilize for its growth purpose. Also here, the other way around, this nitrogen has to be taken back to the atmosphere. Only then the balance can be maintained. So in order to do that, what happens? There are some of the bacteria, denitrifying bacteria present, that it will separate the atmospheric nitrogen to get mixed up with the air. Okay, so that is how it just gets into the air again, and it maintains the balance of the nitrogen content in the atmosphere. All right, and we also get the nitrogen from the dead and decayed organic matters as well as the excretory part. So everything helps in this particular process. So here we also can see something called as crop rotation. How does it help? Let us see now. One of the methods to improve the soil nutrition is crop rotation. So this crop rotation can be done, as well as the mixed cultivation can also be done. Okay, rotation of crops or mixed cultivation. Let us see what is mixed cultivation is all about. Cultivation of two different crops in the same field is called as mixed cultivation. So two crops will be grown in the particular field in order to balance the minerals produced in the soil. The main crop, a main crop will be grown, and along with that a legume crop is also grown. Okay, see, look at this picture, you will get an idea about it. Can you see here? There is a type of crop which is grown here, as well as a leguminous plant is also grown along the side, so that the soil will be rich in nutrition, so that it can share the nutrition. It is also kind of a symbiotic. Okay, so this is how the mixed cultivation happens in order to keep the soil always fertile. The other way what we can discuss is like crop rotation. The crop rotation is nothing but the cultivation of two crops with two different needs will happen. Okay, the first crop will be harvested, and then the second crop will be sowed, and then it will be harvested. Mostly the second crop, whatever they are sowing, will be like a leguminous plant, because once, for example, if they sow the paddy, okay, they will cultivate it, so the soil will lack nutrition in it. So in order to provide more amount of nutrition, instead of adding extra manure or artificial fertilizers and make the soil infertile, we can just do this kind of process, so that naturally the nutrients will be supplied to the soil and the roots. Okay, so this type of techniques is followed by the farmers in order to maintain the nutrients in the soil. So this is called as crop rotation. First a crop will be grown and then it will be harvested, and then the second crop will be grown and that will be harvested as well. So mostly the second crop which is grown will be of leguminous plants. We know why it is, because it has a root nodules where the rhizobium bacteria will convert more amount of nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen, into the water soluble nitrogen. Yes. Now, you might have understood the lesson. Let's have a short recap on whatever we have learned here. Okay, so we did start the lesson by understanding what is nutrition. What is nutrition and what are the types of it, mode of nutrition, how the plant intake the foodstuff for its survival. One is like autotrophic and the other one is like heterotrophic. Autotrophic are nothing but where the process of photosynthesis involved in preparing the foodstuff. So here, what does it require? The raw materials, the carbon dioxide and water, the long minerals. Okay, it is required. Along with it, the sunlight is trapped with the help of the chlorophyll, and this is how the photosynthesis process happen and the autotrophic nutrition takes place. So in this process, we also learned in detail about the plant cell and where this organelle chloroplast is present and how it is helpful in the process of photosynthesis by producing the pigment called as chlorophyll. Okay, along with it, we also learned some other pigments like xanthophyll and lycopene, which is responsible for the yellow and red color outputs. Next, heterotrophic nutrition. Here we also discussed about like the two modes where we saw an example as parasitic plant. What is the example we saw for this? It is like cascata, where it will just grow on the other plant, taking it as a host and absorbs the nutrition from it with the help of the roots produced from this plant, and they will use it for entire lifetime. Okay, and then the insectivorous plants. Here the insects are attracted by these kind of lid, where what happens, the insects will just get trapped inside this. So in this particular process, it will immediately close the lid and it will trap the nitrogen from the particular insect where it lacks the nitrogen in the places where they grow. So that is the reason these are called as insectivore plant. And the other example which is given here for the saprophytic type is mushroom. Okay, another type of nutrition we saw is saprophytes. Okay, saprophytic nutrition, and the example seen here was mushroom. Okay, and what is the other example seen? Bread mold. All right, and apart from this, here the specific kind of nutrients are absorbed in this from the dead plants and animals. And looking at the last picture here, what it is called, these are called symbionts. One such example which is given as lichens. So this is how the plant prepare their foodstuff. So the entire lesson shows us how the plants are able to prepare their foodstuff for their survival in two different modes. One is like autotrophic and another one is heterotrophic. Yes, so you might have understood this lesson. If you have any doubts in this, please do ping me. Thank you.